Right. NAFTA or any other agreement with or monies given to Mexico should be in play here, should be used as leverage to stop this. In fact, word is Mexico might now be considering intervening in the caravan's effort to reach the promised land of Tijuana as a staging area to breach our sovereignty, aka our border. Good. Diplomacy via Twitter, we shall see. But here's the point. This episode only highlights the fact that this republic still has a wide open southern flank. So we've heard from the president, but where's the Congress on this? Joining me now from Baltimore, Maryland, senior editor for Conservative Review, Daniel Horowitz. Daniel, I just remembered where Congress is. They're on vacation, as they want to do quite a lot. During their time as members of Congress. They're refusing overall, the leadership is anyway, to use their Article 1, Section 8 powers to help out the President of the United States. It's right there in Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution under immigration and holding back insurrections. Well, this looks like an insurrection that's growing to me right toward our southern border. The President is clearly frustrated here, and now he's talking about sending troops to the border. Good. We've been calling for that for many, many years.
Well, for one thing, I think the president is right to call upon Congress to act. And actually, the president has Article 2, Section 3 powers to call Congress back into session. I think for effect, he should call them back a couple days early to deal with this. But let's be clear. The president does not need to wait for Congress to act. The Supreme Court has said in an uninterrupted stream of case law that the right to protect our sovereignty and exclude dangerous aliens is inherent in not just legislative powers, but executive Article 2 powers as well. So the president has all the powers in the world in addition to the power of commander-in-chief to stop this. Isn't it interesting how whenever we think of foreign policy, foreign affairs, military engagements, we automatically think of refereeing Islamic civil wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. But really, foreign affairs and military intervention starts with homeland security. This is the most appropriate place for military intervention. And I would argue this is the only place he actually doesn't need congressional authorization because it's purely a defensive act.
I would also argue, along with that, Daniel, that there are enough laws on the books, maybe one or two, to beef up security at the border and maybe interior enforcement of some kind. We need to obviously address legal immigration, but that's a separate issue. But the bottom line is the president has hinted that we need more laws. I don't think that's necessarily true. We just need to enforce the laws that we have on the books right now. And just because you are coming from a third world country and knocking on our door doesn't mean you have the right to enter our country and seek asylum. We have a system here. We are a civil society. They're coming from societies that aren't so civil. But our society is supposed to be civil, and we have rules and we have processes. And you're writing about something right now. I think you just issued it today through Conservative Review. 21%, is that the number? 21% of the MS-13 gang members came through the asylum process?
21% of the gang members that have been arrested in a recent government sting, Operation Mortera, they turned out to be these very unaccompanied minors, so to speak. Many of them aren't minors that came here. A lot of them were drug smugglers. And keep in mind, guess who gets all the proceeds of the human smuggling? It's the drug cartels that control the routes of the human smuggling. So we're actually empowering this. This is a national security issue from the drug crisis standpoint as well. And you're absolutely right. The president does not need to change the laws. Existing law gives the president the authority, the full discretion to determine whether someone has a credible fear. That is determined by persecution of ethnicity, race, or public opinion. I can guarantee you none of the people coming over are being persecuted for supporting free markets or something like that. It's also a homogenous population. And one other thing, unaccompanied children are only to be settled as refugees if they are, quote, severely trafficked. 99% of them are not unaccompanied because they're trafficked by their parents to reunite, and they themselves pay the smugglers. So pursuant to existing law, the president has the authority to shut this off.
And now the White House is also saying they would like these immigration judges to handle the cases a little more expeditiously, which only makes sense. The mainstream media is calling it a quota. It's not really a quota. It's, hey, get this backlog out of here. We've got to catch up. They want to have, I think, 700 cases a year. That's, more or less, depending on how many working days there are. I don't know how many days a judge works in the immigration court, but let's say 5, maybe 6 a day. That's not unreasonable. But the bottom line is we've got to catch up. And part of the problem in the system that exists today is that a lot of these people, a lot of these cases are so backlogged that they end up releasing these people. And then, of course, what a surprise, Daniel, they don't end up showing back up in court.
Imagine that. They use our own laws and compassion against us. So many flood our country that they complain they don't have an expeditious hearing and therefore they have to be released. But here's the bottom line. There's a tool that's very common sense called expedited deportation. We barely use it. There is no reason why 99% of these people cannot be removed even before a hearing before an immigration judge. Here's what the Constitution says pursuant to case law. Only if you have a claim that you are a U.S. citizen or you have previously been allowed in the country for any other reason do you have the right to some sort of hearing. Otherwise, whatever the border agent says at the border should be the final say, and they should be deported expeditiously.
Donald Trump is also tweeting about DACA, saying the deal is off, but he's also saying why he's suggesting the deal is off, and that is because of this flood, what we're seeing right now, possibly part of this caravan. And that is that there are people who want to come into this country illegally and try and get under the DACA program. Now, the mainstream media pushes back and say, oh, well, that's nonsense because 2007 is the cutoff date. You have to have been in this country in 2007. And you're shaking your head. I can see it, and I know why. Because of the report that we just heard a few minutes ago, a lot of these people are coming here with no documentation. So once they get infiltrated into our society, they can say, yeah, and they can get some doctored paperwork at some swap meet somewhere in Los Angeles that says they have some sort of, I don't know, some sort of a tax form or possibly some sort of receipt or maybe some sort of gas and electric bill that shows they were here in 2005, 2006, and boom, they're in under DACA. This is the problem with amnesty.
No, I mean, the Washington Times just had a report recently that the Obama administration blocked a form that was required for DACA that would have required them to submit all of the Social Security numbers they previously used for identity fraud in order to protect them from being prosecuted. You got identity fraud. And then also the bottom line is that when you have open borders, you incentivize everyone to come. Here's the irony. They say the cutoff's 2007. We're already at the point where the new DACA proposals in Congress make the cutoff at 2014. That was already at the time when the new influx came as a result of the original DACA. This is an endless cycle. The only way to shut it down is to say no more amnesty.
And let it die. And I think the president's doing the right thing. I hope he sticks with it. And as far as this caravan is concerned, I'm sorry. You say it's terrible what's happening in your country, but turn around and go back and fix it. That's what we suggest. Daniel, thanks.